The ancient dragon known as Flamwing stretched his massive wings atop the highest peak of Mount Cristar. His golden scales caught the morning light of the twin suns as it gazed down at the valley below. For 3,000 years El Cayedi's mountain home, watching the rise and fall of civilizations across the galaxy. The dragon has seen wars that lasted centuries and peace that lasted mere moments. Nothing surprised me anymore, or so it all. The human settlement of Greenfield lay spread across the valley floor like a small village. Flamwing had watched the curious bipedal creatures arrive on this world Le Cayet Terra Nova used 50 years ago. They built their homes with such hope and determination. The humans were different from other species I had observed. Where others built with metal and sterile designs, humans planted gardens around their dwellings. They painted their walls in bright colors and on decorations that served no practical purpose except to bring them joy. The dragon found their behavior fascinating yet puzzling. These humans were so young as a spacefaring species, barely 200 years since they had achieved faster than light travel. Most galactic civilizations took thousands of years to reach such technological aids. Yet here they were, spreading across the stars with the enthusiasm of children discovering a new playground. A glint of light in the sky caught Flamwing's attention. Ships were descending through the atmosphere, but these were not the usual human transport vessels that brought supplies and new settlers. These ships were darker, more angular, with a crystalline quality that made them shimmer like broken glass. The dragon's ancient eyes narrowed as recognize the design. Vex Empire Riders. The crystalline-embodied aliens of the Vex Empire were known throughout the galaxy for their cruelty. They appeared as humanoid figures made of living crystal, beautiful to look at but cold as the void of space. Their empire existed for over 10,000 years, built on the suffering of countless species they had conquered and enslaved. They took prisoners not for ransom or labor, but for their twisted experiments and entertainment. Flamwing settled back on his haunches to watch what would unfold. As in many rides over the millennia, the pattern was always the same. The stronger force would attack, the weaker would resist briefly, then surrender or die. It was the natural order of things. The dragon felt no need to intervene. These were not his people, and this was not his war. The Vex ships landed in the center of Greenfield with hardly a sound. The crystalline halls split open like blooming flowers, disgorging their occupants. The Vex soldiers moved with deadly grace, their crystal bodies refracting the sunlight into rainbow patterns as they spread throughout the settlement. Each one stood nearly 8 feet tall, their forms shifting between translucent and opaque as emotions flowed through their crystalline matrices. The humans reacted faster than Flamwing expected. Warning sirens blared across the settlement as colonists grabbed whatever weapons they could find. These were not soldiers but farmers, teachers, engineers, and shopkeepers. Yet they fought with a desperation that impressed even the ancient dragon. A human Malena met Tom barricaded himself in the general store with a hunting rifle, picking up Vex soldiers with careful shots. A woman Cayet Lisa led a group of children toward the forest, firing a pistol with one hand while carrying a toddler with the other. But the Vex were too many and too well armed. Their energetic weapons could throw human defenses like paper. One by one, the human resistance point fell silent. The dragon watched with detached interest as the aliens rounded up survivors. This was how these things always went. The strong conquered the weak. It was the way of the universe. Then Flamwing saw her. A small human child, perhaps 12 years old, was dragged from a burning house by 2 Vex soldiers. Her name was Emma, though the dragon did not know this yet. She had long brown hair that fell in tangles around her dirt-streaked face. Her clothes were torn and scorched, but her eyes held a defiance that seemed too large for such a small form. She struggled against her captors even though they were 3 times her size. The Vex commander, distinguished by the purple hue of his crystal body, approached the shield. His form rippled with what passed for amusement among his species. The commander's voice carried across the valley as he spoke in the universal trade language that most species understood. Little mea creature, the commander said, his voice creating harmonics that made itself seem to vibrate. You will provide the West with much entertainment on the journey home. Emma spat at the alien's feet. My daddy will come for me, she said with a conviction that made the Flamwing's ancient air skip a beat. I bring the whole fleet if asked to. The commander's laughter sounded like breaking glass. Your daddy is space dust, little one. We destroyed his ship 3 days ago about the fourth moon. The dragon saw the exact moment when the shields of Ians cracked. Her shoulders sagged as the reality hit her. Her father was dead. Her family was gone. She was alone with creatures that viewed her as nothing more than a plaything to be broken for their amusement. But then something remarkable happened. Emma straightened her spine and lifted her chin. The fear was still there in her eyes, but it was joined by something else. Something that made the flaming lean forward on his perch. It was not surrender. It was resolve. Tenía igual for someone else to come, Emma said quietly. Someone always comes for us. That's what humans do. The Vex commander found this hilarious. A gesture to his soldiers, who began setting up what Flamwing recognized as torture devices. The dragon has seen such implements before in his long life. The Vex were artists when it came to inflicting pain. They could keep a victim alive and unconscious for days, while slowly dismantling them piece by piece. Flamwing told himself to look away. This was not his concern. The shield was used another casualty in the endless cycle of galactic violence. It has seen millions die over the centuries. What was one more? But could not turn away. The torture began with small cuts, precise incisions that caused maximum pain while doing minimal damage. The Vex wanted their victims to last as long as possible. Emma's screams echoed across the valley, and Flamwing felt something he had not experienced in centuries. His massive claws dug furrows in the stone beneath him. Hours passed. The child's voice grew hoarse from screaming, then fell to whimpers, then to barely audible gasps. Trogital, they never begged, never pleaded for mercy, never offered to give the aliens what they wanted in exchange for a quick death. As the twin suns began to set, panting the sky in shouts of orange and red, Emma's voice could barely be heard. But Flamwing's enhanced hearing caught her final words. She was not cursing her tormentors or crying out in despair. Instead, she whispered names. I love you, Mommy, she breathed. I love you, Daddy. I love you, Tommy. Each name was spoken with the same gentle tenderness apparent Mitus while tucking a child into bed. The Vex commander leaned closer, frustrated that his victim was not providing the satisfying screams a crowd. Beg for that, little mere creature, he hissed. Plead with Suez to endure suffering. Emma's eyes, dim with pain but still holding that impossible spark of defiance, focused on the alien's face. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper, but every word carried across the silent valley. Someone will come, she said. Someone always comes for us. Those were her last words. The Vex commander strutted in frustration. The child died without breaking, without giving him the satisfaction sought. He kicked at the small body in annoyance before ordering his troops to load the other prisoners onto the ships. Flamwing remained motionless on his perch long after the Vex vessels had departed. The settlement below burned in the gathering darkness, orange flames dancing among the ruins of human dreams. The dragon's golden eyes remained fixed on the spot where a 12-year-old lay with such carried sham creatures 10 times her age. For the first time in 3,000 years, the ancient dragon felt something stirring in his chest that he thought long dead. It was not Kite anger, not Kite sorrow, but something that combined the elements of both. As he spread his massive wings and talked to the night sky, Flamwing found himself thinking about the child's final words. Someone will come, Saya said. Someone always comes for us. The dragon wondered if she might be right. Admiral Kane was reviewing the supply reports in his quarters aboard the battleship Sunday when every screen in his cabin suddenly flickered to life. The 60-year-old commander had served in the human colonial fleet for 30 years and had never seen anything like what appeared before him. Every monitor, every display panel, even his personal tablet saw the same image. A little girl with brown hair and torn clothes. Kane leaned forward in his chair as the transmission began. He recognized the universal trade language being spoken by Christian figures that call on the Vivex. The audio was clear, too clear, as if it were standing right there in that burning settlement. It watched in grung roar as the child was tortured, her screams filling his cabin with such clarity that his hands began to shake. Across human space, the same transmission played simultaneously on every human device capable of receiving signals. On the mining colony of New Pittsburgh, workers stopped their machines to stare at screens showing the small Hill's ordeal. In the research stations orbiting distant stars, scientists abandoned their experiments as the broadcast interrupted every system. On passenger ships carrying families between worlds, parents cover their children's eyes while they're on field with stairs of rai. The transmission so not aveva impossible. Quantum entanglement networks were theoretical at best, requiring technology that humanity had not yet developed. Yet somehow, the here's final moments were being broadcast to every human settlement, every ship, every outpost across hundreds of light years of space. The signal was not coming through normal communication channels. It was appearing directly in their neural networks, in their very consciousness. Captain Torres stood on the bridge of the transport vessel Niwope when the images flooded her mind. She was a tough woman who had served on the frontier for 15 years, but she found herself weeping as I watched the chills carry. Around her, the bridge crew stood in stunned silence as the transmission played out. When it ended with the hero's whispered words of love for her family, Torres felt something fundamental shift inside her chest. Dr. Red was conducting research on alien biology when her laboratory screens lit up with a broadcast. She had dedicated her life to understanding different species, believing that Nali could bridge the gaps between civilizations. As she watched the Vex commander torturing the human shield, her fight in peaceful coexistence crumbled like dust. The girl could have avenged her own daughter, could have avenged any of their daughters. On the prison's ship Redemption, convicts who have been serving sentences for various crimes found themselves united by the transmission that reached their isolated cells. Murderers and thieves stood side by side, all seeing the same thing, all feeling the same burning need for justice. A man named Rick, serving 20 years for armed robbery, pounding his fist against his elder as tears streamed down his scarred face. The broadcast lasted exactly 36 minutes, from the moment Emma was captured until her final breath. When it ended, human space fell into absolute silence. Not the peaceful quiet of rest, but the deadly stillness that comes before a storm. On 10,000 worlds, in countless ships, across a vast network of human civilization, the same thought echoed in millions of minds. They killed our child. Admiral Kane was the first to break the silence. His voice, usually calm and measured, shook with virulent and fury as he activated the fleet-wide communication system. All vessels, all stations, all colonies, a vegan, his words carrying to every corner of human space. We have witnessed an act of war against our species. A child of humanity has been murdered. This aggression will not stand. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within minutes of Khan's transmission, messages began flooding in from across human territory. Captain Torres was the first to respond from the outer rim. Niwope requesting permission to join the fleet, her voice crackled over the long-range communicators. We were a transport ship, but we convert to military operations. Dr. Reyes' message came next from the research station orbiting the neutron star designated Alpha 7. Abandoning current research, Cyanon said, all personnel volunteering for military service. We were not soldiers, but we learned. From the mining colonies came reports of workers welding armor plating onto cargo holds and industrial vessels. From the agricultural worlds came farmers loading their crop dusters with improvised weapons. Even the luxury passenger liners that carry wealthy tourists between core worlds sent messages offering their ships for the waterford. The prison's ship Redemption sent perhaps the most surprising message of all. The warden's voice was steady but mass as reported, prisoners requesting immediate release to serve in combat operations. They were willing to serve without pay, without pardons, without any guarantee of reduced sentences. They used want to fight. Instead of the flood of incoming messages with something approaching go. In his decades of service, he had never seen anything like this level of unity among human forces. Humanity was scattered across hundreds of worlds, divided by politics, economics, religion, and culture. They argued about everything from trade routes to territorial boundaries. But the idea of one child that brought them together like nothing in their history. The quantum entanglement effect was spreading beyond the initial broadcast. Somehow, the emotional resonance of Emma's death was creating a network of shared consciousness among humans. Kane could feel it himself, a subtle awareness of other minds across the galaxy focused on the same burning purpose. It was as if humanity had become a single organism with one unified will. Intelligence reports began flowing in as human agents across the galaxy activated networks that had been dormant for years. The location of every Vex military installation, Every supply depot, every population center was transmitted to Canes command ship. Information that would normally take months to gather was compiled in hours. It was as if every human in the galaxy suddenly became a part of an intelligence operation focused solely on destroying the Vex Empire. The Galactic Council, the governing body that supposedly maintained peace between the starfaring species, sent urgent communications demanding restraint. Ambassador Klett, a towering insectoid creature from the Mantic Collective, transmitted a formal protest. The human colonial government must pursue diplomatic channels. His translated message stated, military action without council approval violates the Galactic Peace Accords. Canes' response was brief and final. The Galactic Council had its chance to stop the Vex Empire's crimes against sentient beings. They chose politics over justice. Humanity chooses differently. Reports coming from across human space of similar responses to Council demands for restraint. On New Tokyo, the colonial governor publicly burned the Galactic Peace Accords in the Central Plaza. On the frontier world of Last Stand, settlers panted their rejection of Council authority on the side of a mountain letters of League. The message was clear. Humanity was withdrawing from galactic love. Within 12 hours of Emma's death, the largest military mobilization in human history was underway. Every military vessel was being recalled from patrol duties and training missions. Every civilian ship capable of carrying weapons was being converted for war. Every human settlement was contributing personnel, supplies, and equipment to the growing armada. But this was not used as military mobilization. Entire families were packing their belongings and heading for the nearest spaceports, determined to join the waterfort in any capacity they could serve. Children too young to fight were being evacuated to secure where so their parents could join the battle. The elderly were volunteering for support roles, maintaining equipment and providing supplies. Kane stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching as ships of every size and description converged on the rally point designated. Military vessels flew alongside converted cargo holds. Sleek racing ships that had been modified for combat formation flew next to hacking mining vessels bristling with improvised weapons. It was a fleet unlike any that had ever been assembled. The dragon flaming soared above the gathering armada, his ancient eyes taking in the unprecedented sight. I followed Admiral Canes' flagship out of curiosity, wondering what these young humans would do in response to the chills they had. What so below a massive. Ships were still arriving by the hundreds, and the dragons in hands hearing picked-up radio chatter from vessels still days away at maximum speed. The humans were not used mobilizing their military. They were mobilizing their entire civilization. Every man, woman, and child who could contribute was doing so. It was as if the death of one little girl had awakened something primal in the human species, something that transcended individual survival and reached into the very essence of what it meant to be human. Kane received reports that similar mobilizations were happening throughout human space. Every sector, every system, every world was contributing to the waterfort. The numbers were staggering. What had begun as a colonial fleet was becoming something far more significant. It was becoming the entire might of humanity focused on a single purpose. As the Admiral watched more ships arrive, he thought about Emma's final words. Someone will come. Saya said, someone always comes for us. The little girl died believing that her people would not abandon her, would not let her there go unavenged. Looking at the vast armada assembling around his flagship, Kane realized that she had been absolutely right. The dragon continued to circle overhead, its ancient mind striving to comprehend what it was witnessing. In 3,000 years of life, Flamwing had never seen an entire species unite with such singular purpose. The humans were proving that their greatest strength was not their technology or their numbers, but their absolute refusal to abandon their own. The Galactic Council chambers had not seen such chaos in over 2,000 years. Representatives from 47 different species filled the massive circular hall, their voices creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and translated speech as they argued over humanity's sudden widower from galactic love. The towering crystal spires of the conceived building on the neutral world of Nexus Prime sparkled in the light of three suns, but the beauty of the architecture was lost on the panicked delegates inside. Councillor Vextar, a vino pure energetic and tanguit in a special suit, called for order with mounting desperation. His species, the Luminari, had maintained galactic peace for millennia through careful diplomacy and balanced power structures. The sudden emergence of humanity as a unit for military forces threatened everything they had built. The humans have ignored 17 separatists and deceased orders, Vextaran said, his translated voice echoing through the chamber. They have withdrawn their ambassadors from our concealed worlds and declared their space of limits to all non-human vessels. This level of aggression is unprecedented in modern galactic history. Ambassador Setak of the Serpentine Collective rose on his coiled lower body, his forked tongue tasting there nervously. My scouts report massive fleet movements throughout human space. A hissed. They are mobilizing everything that can fly. Even their cargo holds have been fitted with weapons. The insectoid representative from the evil worlds clicked her mandibles in agitation. All trade routes through human space have been severed completely. They are boarding any non-human vessel that enters their territory and escorting them out at gunpoint. The economic implications alone could destabilize the entire galactic market. What the Council members did not understand was that humanity no longer cared about galactic markets or diplomatic consequences. The quantum broadcast of MSDR created something unprecedented in human history, absolute unity of purpose. Every human settlement, every ship, every individual was now part of a single organism focused on one goal, the complete destruction of the Vex Empire. Admiral Kane stood in the command center of his flagship, surrounded by holographic displays showing the movement of human forces across the galaxy. The sight was staggering event to him. What had begun as a standard fleet mobilization had evolved into something that defied a military logic. Entire civilian populations were abandoning their homes to join the waterford. Report from Sector 7. Cadet out Lieutenant West, a young officer whose voice still shook with amazement at what Sight was witnessing. The mining colony of Iron Readers converted their entire ore processing facility into a weapons manufacturing plant. They were producing combat armor around the clock and shipping it to the front lines. Captain Torres had arrived 2 days earlier with what she called the Civilian Auxiliary Fleet. Her convoy of converted transport ships had grown to over 300 vessels, each one crammed with volunteers who had abandoned their normal lives to join the fight. These were not soldiers but teachers, farmers, shopkeepers, and engineers who had watched them at the end decided they could not stand by and do nothing. We know we were not trained for combat. Torres had told Ken when they arrived. But we can carry supplies, provide medical support, maintain equipment, free up your real soldiers for the fighting. Dr. Red had transformed her research station into a field hospital and intelligence gathering center. Her team of xenobiologists, who had spent years studying alien physiology, were now using that knowledge to develop more effective weapons against Vex forces. She had volunteered to serve aboard Khan's flagship as both chief medical officer and tactical advisor. The Vex physiology has a critical weakness, Red explained during a briefing session. Their crystalline structure conducts certain frequencies of energy extremely well. If we can modify our weapons to generate resonant harmonics, we can shatter them from the inside out. The present ship Redemption has become one of the most effective units in the growing fleet. The criminals who have been released to fight were proving to be remarkably motivated soldiers. Rick, the armed robber who had wept in Hazel during Emma's broadcast, has become a squad leader known for his fierce protection of civilian evacuees. The former prisoners fought with a desperate intensity, as if trying to redeem themselves through service to their species. Intelligence reports flowing in from across the galaxy painted a picture of humanity that stand even their own leaders. On the agri-world of Green Valley, farmers were abandoning their crops in the fields to volunteer for military service, saying that fall meant nothing if their children were not safe. On the technological hub of New Silicon, scientists were working 20 days to develop new weapons and defensive systems. Every human world was contributing something to the waterford. The Dragon Flamewing continued to follow the human fleet, his ancient mind fascinated by what it was witnessing. The humans were not behaving like any species had observed in 3 millennia of life. Most civilizations, when faced with a superior enemy, would seek compromise or surrender to preserve their existence. The humans were doing the opposite. They were risking everything for the sake of one the shield. Reports began arriving of Vex Empire responses to the human mobilization. The Crystalline Alliance, secure in their technological superiority and vast empire, initially dismissed the human triad. Vex Command issued a statement through galactic communication networks declaring that humanity would be crushed like all their previous enemies. De mea creatures overestimate their capabilities, annonce Vex Commander Sartok from the Empire's capital world. We have conquered 100 species across 10,000 years. These humans are nothing more than primitive mammals who learn to use star serps. They will be easy prey. The Vex Empire's confidence was understandable. Their territory spanned over 2,000 star systems, defended by fleets that had never known defeat. Their technology was thousands of years more advanced than humanity's. Their soldiers were living weapons of crystal and energy who felt no fear and no mercy. By every logical calculation, the humans would have been seeking peace terms rather than preparing for war. But the Vex had made a critical miscalculation. They assumed that humans would behave like every other species they had conquered, fighting to preserve their civilization and seeking survival above all else. They did not understand that humans were pack animals who would sacrifice everything to protect their young. The death of Emma triggered something primal in human nature that transcended rational self-interest. Kane received disturbing intelligence reports about the scope of Vex cruelty throughout their empire. Emma had not been an isolated case. The Alliance had been systematically capturing and torturing human children from settlements across the frontier for months, using them in their twisty experiments and games. The quantum broadcast that has shown Emma's death was somehow revealing the fate of dozens of other human children who had suffered similar ordeals. They were then hunting orchids like animals, Kane told his senior staff during a strategy briefing. Intelligence suggests they were killed over 200 human children in the past year alone. Emma was used the one we saw there. The revelation sent waves of renewed fury through the human fleet. War had begun as vengeance for one child became a mission to save the children still trapped in Vex territory. Rescue operations became as important as military objectives. Every human who could hold a weapon volunteered for the most dangerous missions if it meant bring their kids home. The Galactic Council made increasingly desperate attempts to hold the human mobilization. Peace negotiators were sent to meet with Khan's fleet, offering to mediate a settlement between humanity and the Vex Empire. Economic sanctions were threatened. Military intervention was discussed. Nothing worked. The humans ignored every diplomatic overture and continued their preparations for war. They were not responding to any of our usual pressure points, reported Ambassador Cleto the emergency council session. Economic threats meant nothing to them because they were becoming completely self-sufficient. Diplomatic oscillation don't concern them because they were already withdrawn from galactic institutions. Even the threat of military action against them seems to be welcomed rather than feared. It Councillor Vextar struggled to understand what was happening. In 2,000 years of maintaining galactic peace, he had never encountered a species that could risk total annihilation for the sake of abstract principles like justice or revenge. Most civilizations could be reasoned with, bargained with, threatened into compliance. The humans seemed immune to all forms of pressure except their own internal drive for retribution. What the Council did not realize was that humanity had evolved on a world where cooperation and mutual protection were necessary for survival. There had been a hostile environment that required its dominant species to work together or perish. The instinct to protect the tribe, especially the young, was hardwired into human nature at a genetic level. Emma's death had activated that instinct on a species-wide scale. The human fleet continued to grow as more ships arrived from the farthest reaches of human space. Vessels that had been traveling for weeks at maximum speed to join the Armada brought news of similar mobilizations happening throughout human territory. Entire worlds were being evacuated as their populations volunteered for military service. Children and elderly were being moved to secure correct worlds while every able-bodied adult joined the war effort. Kane stood before a holographic display, showing the full scope of human mobilization and felt a mixture of pride and terror. Humanity was committing everything to this war, their entire civilization, their future, their very existence. If they failed, there would be no second chance. The human species would be extinct within a generation. But as he looked at the faces of his officers, at the volunteers who had abandoned everything to join this fight, at the dragon circling overhead who had chosen to witness their cause, Kane realized that failure was not an option. Emma died believing that someone would come for her. Looking at the vast armada gathering around his flagship, the admiral knew that they had been right. The storm was gathered. Now it was time to unleash the pantos of water to harm their children. The fierce Vex world to fall was Calle Crystal Air, a mining colony on the outer edge of their empire. The human fleet arrived not with the standards assault that military doctrine suggested, but with the methodical precision of surgeons removing a cancer. Admiral Kane watched the operation from his command ship as Captain Torres led her converted civilian vessels in the initial way. The Vex defenders had expected a frontal assault on 10 military installations. Instead, the humans bypassed every defensive position and went straight for the civilian population centers. But they were not there to slaughter innocents. They were there to search every building, every underground facility, every hidden chamber for human prisoners. Scanning completed on Sector 7, reported Lieutenant West. No human life since detected. Moving to Sector 8. The Vex crystalline soldiers tried to mount a defense, but they found themselves fighting an enemy that ignored traditional military targets. Human forces flowed around defensive positions like water around the stones, focused entirely on their rescue mission. When Vex troops tried to intercept them, the humans fought with a fury that shocked even veteran alien warriors. Rick, the former armed robber who now led a rescue squad, kicked down the door to what appeared to be a Vex research facility. Inside, his team found laboratories filled with examination tablets and surgical equipment that made their stomachs turn. The walls were lined with glass containers holding specimens that had once been living beings from a dozen different species. Check every room, Rick ordered his squad, his voice tight with control rage. Look for any humans still alive. They found 3 human children in a holding cell beneath the facility. 2 girls and a boy, between the ages of 8 and 14, huddled together in the corner of their prison. They were alive but bore the marks of Vex experimentation. When Rick's team broke down the cell door, the children initially cowered in fear. "It's okay," Rick said softly, removing his helmet so they could see his human face. "We're here to take you home." The boy, who appeared to be the oldest, looked up with eyes that seemed too much. "Are you real?" Egg whispered. "The Crystal people said no one would come for us." "We're real," Rick replied, tears streaming down his scarred face. "And we're taking you home right now." Similar scenes played out across Crystal Earth as human rescue teams methodically searched every structure on the world. They found dozens of human prisoners in various stages of Vex experimentation, along with evidence of hundreds more who had not survived their captivity. Each discovery added fuel to the fire of human rights that was consuming the galaxy. The Vex who had participated in the torture program faced a fate that made their victims, suffering seemed merciful by comparison. Human forces did not simply execute them. They captured them alive and subjected them to every procedure, every experiment, every torment that had been inflicted on human children. Dr. Her medical oaths forgotten in the face of such atrocity, personally supervised the process. "You will experience everything you did to our children," she told the Vex scientists who have been found with recordings of his experiments on human subjects. "Every cut, every burn, every moment of agony. The difference is that we will keep you alive much longer than you kept them." The dragon family observed the human methods with growing amazement. Most species, when conquering territory, focus on controlling strategic resources and eliminating military threats. The humans were doing something entirely different. They were systematically dismantling Vex civilization not for conquest, but for justice. Within days of the fall of Crystal Earth, reports came in of human fleets attacking Vex positions throughout their empire. But these were not random raids or territorial grabs. The humans had somehow obtained detailed intelligence on every Vex facility that had been used for experiments on sentient beings. They struck with surgical precision, targeting only those installations while leaving others untouched. The Vex command finally began to understand the nature of their enemy. These humans were not trying to build an empire or claim territory. They were exterminating every trace of the Vex torture program and everyone who had participated in it. It was not war in any traditional sense. It was an extermination campaign driven by parental fury. Vex Commander Sartok convened an emergency meeting of his War Council on the capital world a month's own. The crystalline leaders gathered in their great hall, their bodies flickering with nervous energy as reports pouring from across their empire. "They are not fighting like any species we have encountered," reported General Kriegstall, his crystal form showing the cracks of stress. "They ignore our strongest fortifications and strike at seemingly random targets. But analysis shows they are specifically hunting facilities that house organic prisoners. How could they possibly have such detailed intelligence?" demanded Sartok. Our security protocol should have prevented any information from reaching human space. The answer came from an unexpected source. The quantum entanglement network data broadcast Mazdeak was still active, somehow allowing human prisoners through space to transmit their locations directly to the rescue fleets. Every human child still alive in Vex captivity have come con calling their people home. Admiral Kane coordinated a massive rescue operation from his flagship while simultaneously directing the systematic destruction of Vex military assets. The human fleet had grown to unprecedented size, with vessels arriving daily from the farthest reaches of human space. Vatis was not a conquering army. It was a species with a rescue mission backed by the entire myth of human civilization. Intelligence reports from Sector 12 announced Lieutenant West. Vex installation Omega 7 contains 43 human prisoners, including 18 children. Rescue Fleet 7 is moving to intercept. The Galactic Council made increasingly desperate attempts to hold the human advance. Peacekeeping fleets were dispatched to interpose themselves between human and Vex forces. The results were swift and decisive. Human vessels swept aside Council's ships with contemptuous. The crew showing no interest in anything except reaching Vex territory. Each Councilor Vexstar himself traveled to the battle zone aboard the Council's most powerful dreadnought, hoping to negotiate directly with Admiral Kane. When his ship intercepted the human fleet, Kane's response was broadcast on our frequencies. Due to 2,000 years to stop the Vex Empire from torturing children, Kane's voice carried across space with called finality. You chose politics over justice every single time. Stand aside or be destroyed. Those are your only options. The concealed dreadnought, outgunned and outnumbered by the human armada, withdrew to a safe distance. The Galactic Council's authority, built over millennia of careful diplomacy, crumbled in the face of humanity's absolute determination to protect their young. Captain Torres led her civilian auxiliary fleet in support operations that kept the rescue mission supplied and reinforced. Her converted transport ships have become mobile hospitals and supply depots, staffed by volunteers who worked around the clock to support the military operations. When she received word that her own had been found alive in a Vex facility, Torres broke down in tears of relief and rage. The systematic destruction of Vex civilization continued with mechanical precision. Human forces did not target civilian populations or non-military installations unless they contained evidence of prisoner abuse. But every Vex military base, every government facility, every research station that participated in the torture program was reduced to radioactive as. The few Vex civilians who survived the initial assaults found themselves relocated to internment camps where they were processing. Those who could prove they had no connection to the prisoner abuse program were eventually released to refugee centers. Those who participated, even tangentially, disappeared into human custody and were never seen again. Dr. Red established field hospitals on every liberated world, treating rescued human prisoners with a combination of advanced medical technology and gentle compassion. Many of the children they rescued were so traumatized that they could not speak or function normally. Red worked tirelessly to not use their physical wounds but their psychological damage as well. They broke their bodies but not their spirits, Sai reported to Kane after examining a group of rescued children. Every one of them scared if their parents were coming for them. Even after everything they endured, they never stopped believing we would find them. The dragon Flamwing found himself drawn deeper into the human campaign, his ancient curiosity overcoming his usual detachment. He had witnessed countless wars and conquests over the millennia, but never anything like the systematic dismantling of an entire civilization based on moral principles rather than material gain. As Vex wars fell one by one, a pattern emerged that emerged in the humans themselves. They were not losing a single battle. The combination of absolute unity, superior numbers, and Raich's fury was proving unstoppable. Vex forces that had terrorized the galaxy for 10,000 years crammed before the human advance like sandcastles before a tsunami. The Vex Empire's technological advantages meant nothing when faced with an enemy that accepted any casualty rather to achieve their objectives. Human ships ran Vex vessels when their weapons failed. Human soldiers detonated explosives strapped to their own bodies to breach Vex fortifications. Every human who died took dozens of Vex with them, and for every human who fell, 10 more took their place. Rick's rescue squad had become legendary through the fleet for their success in finding and retrieving human prisoners. The former criminal had discovered a talent for urban warfare and infiltration that made him invaluable to the rescue operations. When as que guai fought with as education, his answer was simple. I spent my whole life taking things from people, he said. Now I get to give them back their children. It's a fierce good thing if ever done. The Vex Empire, which had existed for the millennia and conquered over 100 species, was disintegrating in a matter of months. The military was shattered, the government was in chaos, and the civilian population was fleeing to neutral space. The humans pursued them with relentless determination, accepting no surrender that did not include the complete dismantling of every facility that had ever housed prisoners. As Admiral Kane watched another Vex world fall to his forces, he thought about them as final words. Someone will come. Saya said. Someone always comes for us. The little girl died believing in her people, and her people had moved the Avenanders to prevent her fight with justified. 6 months after Emma's death, the Vex Empire ceased to exist. The final Vex stronghold on Diamond's throne fell not to human weapons but to simple abandonment. The surviving Vex civilians had fled to a single world designated as their reservation, guarded by human ships and monitored by human sensors. Of the 2,000 star systems that had once comprised their mighty empire, only one remained under Vex control. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the planet that now housed the remnants of a civilization that had terrorized the galaxy for the millennia. The irony was not lost in that this world was smaller than most human agricultural colonies, yet it now can handle that remained of the once mighty Vex Empire. Final census report. Sir, Lieutenant Wesson said, her voice carrying a mixture of satisfaction and exhaustion. We have recovered 837 human prisoners from Vex facilities. Of those, 412 were children. Medical teams report that while survivors show signs of trauma, the majority are expected to make full recoveries. Kane nodded, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders that had carried since watching Emma's final moments. Every human child found alive was a victory that justified the massive campaign they had waged. But the cost had been enormous. Nearly 3 million humans had died in the war, and entire generations had been marked by the experience of total mobilization. The dragon Flamwing descended from the clouds above the human fleet, his massive form casting shadows across the assembled ships. Over the past month, the ancient creature had become an unofficial observer of human operations, his presence accepted by the fleet as a neutral witness to their actions. Kane had grown accustomed to seeing the dragon's golden scales gleaming in the starlight above his bridge. To everyone's surprise, Flamwing requested permission to land on the flagship's mine and Garvai. Kane granted the request, curious about what the ancient being wanted after months of silent observation. The dragon folded his massive wings and settled onto the reinforced deck, his golden eyes meeting the Admiral's gaze directly. Admiral Kane. Flamwing spoke, his voice carrying the weight of 3 millennia. I have watched your species watch this war with something I have never seen in my years of existence. You fought not for territory or resources or glory, but for your young. This is worthy of respect. Kane studied the dragon carefully, unsure where this conversation was leading. We did Guarani Parengudo replied simply. We protected our children. No, Flamwing said, shaking his massive head. Most species protect their offspring through caution and hiding. They preserve the group by sacrificing individuals when necessary. You did the opposite. You risked your entire civilization to save children who were already lost. This defies all evolutionary logic, yet it has made you the most formidable species I have ever encountered. The dragons were scattered across the hangar by where human crew members had gathered to witness this unprecedented meeting. Many of them were veterans of the rescue operations, men and women who had seen the horrors of Vex experimentation firsthand. They listened with pride as the ancient being acknowledged their sacrifice. I have decided to offer my services to humanity, Flamwing continued. Not as a subject or an ally bound by treaty, but as one who recognizes strengths when necessitated. Your species has earned my respect, and respect from one such as myself is not given lightly. The offer stand Kane and his crew. Dragons were legendary beings, known for their independence and refusal to serve any cause except their own. For Flamwing to voluntarily align himself with humanity was unprecedented in galactic history. Kane accepted the offer with the gravity it deserved, understanding that this moment would be remembered for generations. Reports coming from across the galaxy of similar reactions from other species. The systematic destruction of the Vex Empire sends a quaves through galactic civilization that were still being felt. Species that are living fed of Vex rights for thousands of years found themselves free for the first time in memory. Many sent messages of gratitude to human space, acknowledging the debt they owed to humanity sacrifice. But not all reactions were positive. The Galactic Council, humiliated by their inability to stop the human campaign, issued formal condemnations of humanity's actions. Each councillor Vexstar declared human space to be in violation of galactic law and threatened economic sanctions against any species that traded with them. Khan's response was broadcast throughout the galaxy on all frequencies. The Galactic Council had the authority to prevent the torture and murder of children. His voice carried to every inhabited world. They chose not to say it. Humanity has withdrawn from our galactic institutions effective immediately. We will govern ourselves according to our own laws and principles. The withdrawal was not used symbolic. Human ambassadors were recalled from every galactic capital. Human trade vessels stopped carrying goods to non-human worlds. Human research stations ceased sharing scientific discoveries with galactic databases. In the span of weeks, humanity became an isolated civilization that wanted nothing to do with the galaxy that had fought to protect their children. Captain Torres had returned to civilian life but found herself appointed as the first director of Human Colonial Defense, a new organization dedicated to preventing future attacks on human settlements. Her civilian auxiliary fleet had proven so effective during the war that it was formally incorporated into human military doctrine. Every human world now maintained a reserve fleet of converted civilian vessels ready to mobilize at a moment's notice. Dr. re-established the EMA Foundation, a medical and research organization dedicated to treating the survivors of Vex experimentation and studying the long-term effects of such trauma. The foundation was funded by contributions from every human world and operative hospitals throughout human space. Red herself had been changed by the war, her former fight in peaceful coexistence replaced by a grim determination to protect human children at any cost. Rick, the former criminal who had become a hero of the rescue operations, found himself appointed as head of a new intelligence service dedicated to monitoring threats to human children. His network of former prisoners and outcasts proved remarkably effective at gathering information about potential dangers to human settlements. When asked about his transformation from criminal to protector, Rick's answer was always there. Same, you said to take things from families. A good say. Now it makes sure families stay together. It's better work than ever to redefine. The surviving Vex population on their observation world lived under constant human supervision. Those who participated in the torture program simply disappeared during the final days of the war. They fought known only to the humans who attacked them. The remaining Vex civilians were forbidden from leaving their world and prohibited from developing any technology more advanced than basic agriculture. The Galactic Council made several attempts to intervene on behalf of the Vex survivors, arguing that the restrictions placed on them by Elati Galactic law regarding the treatment of defeated populations. Khan's response was delivered by a single human diplomat who appeared before the full Council Assembly. The Vex Empire spent 10,000 years torturing children from dozens of species, the diplomat stated with precision. The survivors are fortunate that humanity chose mercy over justice. They will live peacefully on their observation world, or they will not live at all. Those are the only options available to them. The Council's protests fell on deaf ears. Humanity had demonstrated that they possess both the will and the capability to destroy any civilization that threatened their children. The message was clear to every species in the galaxy. Human children were now under the protection of a species that would commit genocide to defend them. Memorial services were held on every human world for Emma and the other children who had died in Vex captivity. But these were not some occasions of mourning. They were celebrations of the carried children as shown and the unity their sacrifice had created among humanity. Emma's final words were carved into monuments on 10,000 worlds. Someone will come. Someone always comes for us. The quantum entanglement network that had broken Mazet had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. Every human in space was now connected by a subtle form of shared consciousness that allowed them to coordinate on a species-wide level. Scientists could not explain how it worked, but its effects were undeniable. Humanity had become a collective organism while maintaining individual identity. The Dragon Flaming took a presidency on a mountain overlooking the Human Naval Academy on the world of New Earth. Young humans would often make pilgrimages to speak with the ancient being, seeking wisdom about their place in the galaxy. His message was always the same. Strength without compassion is tyranny, but compassion without strength is meaningless. Your species has learned the balance. A ghoul tell them, you have the power to destroy your enemies and the wisdom to show mercy to the innocent. This makes you worthy of the responsibilities that come with dominance. Admiral Kane retired from active service but remained as an advisor to the human colonial government. His final act as fleet commander was to establish the EMA Protocol, a set of military doctrines that prioritize the protection of human children above all other considerations. Any threat to human children, no matter how minor, would be met with the full force of human civilization. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their numbers, but their absolute refusal to abandon their own. The death of one 12-year-old girl awakened something primal in the human species, something that transformed them from scattered colonies into a unified force capable of reshaping galactic civilization. On every human world, in every human ship, in every human earth, Emma's memory lived on. She had died believing that someone would come for her, and her people had moved even anders to prevent that fight was justified. The little girl who had fast tortured and the wizard carries had become the symbol of everything humanity aspired to be. The dragon watched the stars from his mountain peak, his ancient eyes reflecting the light of distant suns. In 3,000 years of existence, he had never seen a species transform so completely or so quickly. The humans had proven that love for their children was stronger than fear of death, and that lesson had made them the most powerful force in the galaxy.